What's happening, people? Welcome back to Inside Devils, the show that keeps you bang up to date with everything coming in and out of Old Trafford. And there has not been much to shout about. Another defeat out of the Carabao Cup on Thursday. And last night, or should I say yesterday afternoon, absolutely shocking performance against Bournemouth again, where we got absolutely slapped 3-0. Joining us to talk about it, we have got Jamie Jackson, we've got Angelina, we've got Anil. We've had to get them in. There's no messing about here. We've got to go straight into this because what on earth has been happening? Jamie, you spent a leaking press conference room to add into that as well. How can I forget about that? I mean, Jamie, what on earth is going on, mate?
Well, in my match report, I basically sort of said that yesterday United couldn't defend, couldn't retain the ball, and they couldn't finish. I'm like, if you can't do those three things, then what can you do, sort of thing. And then, the leaky press room is kind of a good microcosm or summation of. It was a really bad performance. It was really, it's the old thing. You can lose games of football, but that was like awful. And I have to say, I described Amorim as it just reminded me of all the other sort of post-Ferguson managers at some point in there. Well, probably during a few different games, but Old Trafford, they look really isolated and sort of like hapless, like what is going on here with these players. They never got going. They were flat. Fernandes towards the end of the first half had 2 or 3 chances. He couldn't finish them. At least those were created. That's fair enough, I suppose. But I'm clutching at straws a little bit. I'm just sort of surprised. It's interesting because you mentioned there that the Tottenham game. I don't know what he was doing with that selection. The reason why I say that is you've just won the derby. Great performance, proper performance away at City. Amid Diallo basically wins it for you by sort of wanting it more than City. And then you go to Tottenham, and instead of just thinking basically like Guardiola does, right? Winning's its own sort of energy. We've got
winning breeds winning.
Eh? Yeah,
winning
exactly.
breeds winning.
And it's Tottenham as well, right? But he changes the team. I know there was some A-listers in there, but he loses that game to Tottenham. And then, I just feel like you see the results of that in a way on a Sunday, in that they sort of had a knockback after what should have been a cracking week, from sort of start to finish, starting with the derby.
Yeah, agreed. I just don't know what we were doing, and so many individual mistakes. Can't defend, like you said, couldn't attack. Angelina, I mean, it just went from bad to worse. Xerxes was brought in because you go, well, Højlund wasn't great midweek. He loses his man for the first goal. Mazraoui's been dependable for us. Infected with the bozo gene, gives away a stupid pen. And then we get a typical Man United cutback goal that we used to have under Eric. So everything was in there.
Yeah, it was just so frustrating. And I know we're going to talk about it, but the set pieces, this situation, I think it's 17 goals from set pieces in the Premier League in 2024. Fair enough, they weren't all on Ruben Amorim's watch, but it's just so frustrating. And I get what he said, that it wasn't just the set pieces. We didn't lose because of the set pieces. It's the same thing that we had under Eric Ten Hag, is Man United are so wasteful with any chances that they've got. How was our XG higher than Bournemouth's? How? It was 2.66, Bournemouth was 1.40. That doesn't make sense. You've got 23 shots, 7 on target. It's just wasteful, it's frustrating, and it is the same kind of things that you would see with Eric Ten Hag's teams, that you would have these situations, you have these chances, you don't capitalise on them, and then you get punished. So it was just, after that Manchester derby, to then have the Spurs game and to then have this game, it's just so disappointing. And I'm not going to try and come, for the manager or anything like that, because let's face it, he's climbing Mount Everest here. But to not keep that momentum going, it was just really disappointing. And for him to say that the players were nervous, that to me I didn't get, because I'm not trying to sound all Gary Neville here, but this is Man United kind of thing.
Yeah. But you're about to anyway. Go on.
I'm about to anyway. But this is this is Manchester United. If you're nervous, what is going on? These players are completely devoid of confidence. And it's fair enough, the Spurs game was tough, but you're going into Bournemouth and you're nervous. That says a lot about the mentality of these players. And I think Amorim has spoken about, mental things that are going on with the players in this team. And I think he's right, and it's going to be tough to repair.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Anil, for you, a lot of people have spoken there. Jamie and Angelina basically said the momentum wasn't quite there, tinkering with the team from Spurs into this game against Bournemouth. And do you still feel that sympathy for for the manager in terms of having to change it? He keeps talking about the load, players coming back from injuries, Christmas period, so many games. Or are you on the side of like, we need to start getting a settled team here because we haven't got that many good players to choose from?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the squad depth is a whole other conversation for another day, Flex. But look, you mentioned Christmas there. It's the first time in Premier League history that Manchester United will go into Christmas in the bottom half of the table. And look, he's had 9 games now, Ruben Amorim. I'm a massive fan of him. The way he speaks and conducts himself, it does seem like he understands the task ahead, but I think he really understands now after he's had a few games under his belt. But I think the ultimate thing here, really, when it comes to Ruben Amorim, in these first 9 games, he scored 17 goals and the team have conceded 17 goals. When he took over, they were 13th. They're still 13th. Their goal difference was -1. And guess what, people? It's still -1. It's not...
That's mental.
It's quite staggering, really, how exact it is before he took over. And, you know, I was watching the Wolves game as well over the weekend. They had an amazing manager bounce. Where was Manchester United's so-called manager bounce? This is a situation where no one expects Amorim to go in and win 9 out of 9. But there needs to be more that we're seeing as Manchester United fans when it comes to what he's trying to build. 9 games is enough time to see at least foundations. He will get time. And like Angelina said, I want to echo it. We're not saying Amorim out or anything ridiculous or reactionary like that. But there needs to be very quickly a time that we see what Amorim's trying to do. Of course, he's changed to this 3 at the back, but as I've just stated, they're still conceding goals, they're still struggling to score goals. So realistically, at this stage, just before the 10-game period comes for him, what difference have we seen so far?
Do you know what? I'm gonna push back on that a little bit, Anil, right? Because I feel like I can see his idea. From Ipswich, I've seen the idea of what he wants. But this is where I'm going to shift it to the players. I'm going to shift it to the players because I think what we've seen is if we look at the actual goals we're conceding, they haven't been conceding goals in terms of like the system's wrong and we've been overrun and
individual
it's
errors.
been like bozos, mate.
Yeah.
Like complete. There's no other way to dress it up. Mazraoui does that. Joshua Zirkzee, what are you doing at the front post? And then you look at Spurs, Martinez, what are you doing? Bayern, what are you doing? If I go back to Forest, Martinez, what are you doing for the first header? You know, Onana, what were you doing? Like, almost every single goal we concede, I can attribute not just, well, that was a really good goal from the opposition. That was just it's been individual errors. So from that bit, I think what Amorim's seeing and what we're seeing is these players, mate, they have, like, the soul needs to be ripped out of Man United in terms of the players. I would keep 3 or 4 players. Other than that, it's all trash. Like, it's all trash. And you know what? I know this is going to sound silly, right? I'm glad that there's no fake manager bounce. There's no, like, some of these guys are showing a little bit. No, because now Ruben Amorim's coming there and he's gone, Jesus, Lord, help me. Oh, my God. Like, these lot are awful. Like, they're awful. And the thing is, Mainu, Yoro, Ahmad, I swear to you, past that, Mazraoui, squad player. Okay, no problem. Can fill in here and there. That's Delete, okay, squad, 5 max total. The rest, it's like, it's fair game. We need to be in our Arsenal period of phase 1, where we took out Aubameyang, Lacazette, Maitland-Niles, Louise, Kolasinac, Mustafi, bloody whoever else. We're in that phase. It's got to be ripped out. And now I'm looking at Ineos. You know, I'm saying, right, in this summer, are you going to be ruthless? Because Ruben Amorim can do no more with that lot. I'm sorry, he can't. I don't know about what you guys think. Jamie, am I just being an emotional wreck here? But I look at them guys there and I'm going, we've seen this before. Bruno, Rashford, Dalot, Lindelof, Maguire. What are we supposed to do? Malacia, not good enough. Xerxes and Højlund, who Ten Hag bought for us, not good enough. There's nothing there.
Yeah, I mean, as I'm listening to you about the summer, for example, I'm thinking, you're probably right, but it's just very difficult, isn't it, to shift a lot of players and get new ones in who are sort of need to be a lot better. And so what we're talking about is, that last summer was kind of a waste in terms of the recruitment. Euro, I'll definitely agree on Euro. Looks a very good player. I know it's a small sample size, not the rest of it, but he looks class.
He does.
fast, really fast actually. Rolls Royce sort of player, defender, lovely pass on him. He's got his head screwed and looks mature, all the rest of it. But then I'm looking at the other 4 he brought in, which is, Xerxes, Delict, Mazrou, Rawi, and one other one I can't remember.
Ugarte.
Yeah, Ugarte looks half
He looks
decent.
all right.
But basically, there's, what was Euro? 50? So this wasting 150 million plus the wages, plus the fact they're on big sort of, long contracts. So very difficult. And, we were talking before off air, part of that whole mess is this Ashworth thing, right? He came in, whenever he came in, was it sort of June or July after his gardening leave from Newcastle United, Ratcliffe sort of quoted in February when they get him, he's one of the best in the world. He's effectively offed 5 months later because Ratcliffe didn't fancy him. I'm told that there was no way Ashworth could ever have worked with Ratcliffe because Ratcliffe basically, he's a real hands-on. He's basically the de facto sort of chief executive sporting director, really, Ratcliffe at United now. I mean, he takes advice, all the rest of it. But I hear what you're saying, Flex, about these players. It's interesting because I actually think Fernandes is a really good player. I would put him in that group, but I can understand his opinions and all the rest of it. I think he's class. I think if he was surrounded by class, then there'd be less focus on him. It wouldn't all depend on him. And I just think he's a really good player. Anyway, but you're definitely right generally. I mean, can you believe Manchester? I know it's Manchester United, and people say you should be entitled whether you're a fan or not. I'm not a fan, but obviously I cover them. But how can they be 13th? Anil just said it's the first time they're going to be bottom half.
Not bottom, David.
89.
Don't go that far. Don't go that far.
Well, we are trying to get to 40 points. It is a relegate. We need 40 points.
But
40 points, yeah.
How can they be? How can Manchester United be in 13th? And I'm glad you said all that, Anil, about this sort of. He's had 9 games and that's enough. Because I agree. I mean, it's not his fault. Of course, it's not. But I'm slightly concerned that what the heck is going on. Now he has said there's going to be a lot of short-term pain or probably.
Says it, yeah.
The storm is coming, I think he said.
And we're kind of in it now, aren't we? You'd probably say. So you've got to sort of take him at his word. But I've been here, as I'm sure we all have, as people who either are fans or follow the club, with other sort of predecessors of his, post-Ferguson, and it never quite happened. So I think there is something not quite right there at the moment, I'm afraid to say.
Yeah, Angelina, for you, look, we've got to go to Wolves next. New manager bounce, 5:30 kickoff under the lights. That manager is his first home game. You can just, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what are your thoughts about going to that game? About the shape that we're in, the players that we know. Tough game.
That's it. And you just feel like Wolves, like you say, at home, they'll be able to carry that momentum over. And I am quite concerned about it because this has got disaster written all over it for Man United. This is such a Man United game that they will go into it and just fall to pieces. And I really hope I'm wrong. And it's like we're saying about the manager. Like I do see what he's trying to do. I think, like we've spoken about it a couple of times on the show, like we can see his intentions, but when you've not got the characters, you've not got the right players for it, it is difficult. And I think for him as well, he's only been a manager, a coach 5 years. Yeah. And as much as he has achieved greatness, this is a huge step up. No disrespect to the Portuguese league, but this is a massive step up. And you can see it on his face. He understands now. He's had a bit of a shock, I think. And I don't think he will have walked into it thinking, yeah, this will be easy. But I think he's started to realise now, this is a massive thing. And I must say as well, the noise that is going on around every single week, something's happening. There's some kind of drama happening. And I think with the Marcus Rashford situation at the moment, the noise around that, I think, is unfair, that this is something else that he's got to deal with now. I personally don't want to see Marcus Rashford play for Man United again. It's really upset me what's been going on. But even that, everyone's thinking, oh, will he play at Wolves? What will happen? All that. We don't need all of that noise. You kind of need to batten down the hatches now and really get into it and figure out how this team is going to move forward. And all the stuff that's going on just makes me really nervous for this Wolves game. And I think that Wolves are going to be up for it. I think we've had a couple of games at Wolves over the years where we've had
I hate going there.
A bit of an Achilles heel. So yeah, I'm going to be honest. I am very, very nervous. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope that they can turn it around. You saying there's about 5 players max that you would class as safe. The rest of them a fair game. Yeah. And if you can get a fee for any of those players, If he can get some of them at least playing to a certain level that you can get something for them, I think they've got to do it. And I think even if, you look at someone like Lisandro Martinez, he's not been great in this back three at all.
He's not it. He's not it.
And
I
as
have to
much
say,
as
he's
we have
not
all
it.
really liked him, is this a situation where my famous phrase of cutting the cord, they're going to have to cut the cord quicker with some of these players, even if they've not been there a long time? But I completely agree with you. I think that there's a little nucleus of players that you would want to keep, but the rest, it's fair game.
Game. Yeah. Anil, for you, what do you think Amorim can do? That the games are coming thick and fast. We know, I stupidly looked ahead to just remind myself what we've got going on. It's
Big mistake, Flex.
Wolves away, Newcastle coming to Old Trafford after that. Then it's away at Anfield, lovely. Then it's Arsenal away in the FA Cup. These beautiful games, beautiful big spectacles. And I feel, and I don't know if I'm coming across too negative, guys. This is only the safe space I can do this. I just feel I know what's coming in the next 4 or so games. I really, really do. What do you think that he can do, or how do you think this period should be managed, Anil? Do you think just, right, forget the injuries now. The injuries are the injuries. Fatigue is fatigue. We have to get that main team out there as much as possible with these games, or do you still think we should actually keep calm? There's a clip doing the rounds, which I'm sure you've probably seen, of Amorim in his first presser at Ipswich, sort of saying we sacrifice now for the principles and what we want to do. We're going to take more pain, more hurt, but this time next year we'll be better, or abandon these principles in the name of giving in to these players to do something they're more comfortable with.
Yeah, for sure. I think, look, there's a lot of technology out in the world now. If we can try and clone Amad Diallo and make 10 more of him, and then maybe we might secure a European finish. No, look, jokes aside, I think this is another thing about Amorim, and I just want to make it clear. It sounds like I'm going in at Amorim. I am such a huge fan of him. I think he's got a presence about him. He's got an assurance within his own capabilities that he will be the man for the job. There's always that famous quote that he said during the many interviews and press conferences he did before a ball was even kicked, that everyone is latching onto. And the one for me that I really enjoyed was, I'm not the right man, but I'm the right man for now. And I thought that really spoke volumes to me when he came in, because he was saying that if they were winning titles back to back, then maybe that wouldn't be the job for him. This is the type of thing or project that he really sort of takes advantage of and really makes the most out of it. I think the one thing that I really want to see, as I said earlier on as well, it's not necessarily the results. We all know that effectively, despite the fact that we're not even in the new year, the season in the Premier League anyway is a write-off. The most they can hope for, if we're being perfectly honest.
Even though we're 6 points off like 5th.
Yeah, but then we're probably just as far away off relegation there at the moment, Flex.
That's why we need 40.
Yeah, half full of half empty. It depends your perspective in life, isn't it? But I think the one thing I really want to see is consistency within the team selection. I think even this 9-game period, okay, I completely understand. He's effectively learning on the job. There's no pre-season. He's been chucked into the deep end and then some. So he is still trying to figure out who he can rely on, and more importantly, who he can't rely on. But even within that starting 11, there's no partnerships. There's no, right, they're my centre-half pairing or three or whatever you want to call it. These are my nailed-on full-backs or wing-backs. And even with Amad Diallo, I think it's quite clear he is the so-called success story so far. But even he's being tried out in 1 or 2 different positions. If you know he's your most effective player, first of all, play him every game. And second of all, play him in a consistent position so he can really nail that down. I think this was another thing with Ten Hag, which really didn't help his cause, is there was a lot of chopping and changing. There was Rashford popping up on the right, then he was on the left, then he was trying down the middle. I think at one stage he was playing in front of Wout Weghorst. You know, you can't have...
Away at Barca, mate. Great
Exactly. So you can't have so much chopping and changing and consistency. I completely understand that there are going to be differences when he figures out who he can really choose and rely on. But I want to see that consistency, even when it is that core players that Angelina and yourself, Flex, have mentioned so far. Keep them in the team. If you know they're worth building the team round and foundations, get them in, and they can learn as much as they need to under Ruben Amorim. So, yeah, I think, like you said, Flex, you know, it's a tough game coming up now against Wolves, but just to make you feel a little bit better, you've got Newcastle, Liverpool and Arsenal next.
Lovely. Jamie, I don't know if he's just going to come in there.
Well, I wondered what you all think about this thing that he's been saying, that he has to rotate because of the load. I get that it's an intensive period. But these are sort of high-end athletes paid hundreds of thousands of pounds, a week. Can they? I mean, they train, they go home, then they have a game. I'm just surprised that he's saying that he has to rotate so much.
This
I get
much,
it.
yeah.
I get it that some players, all the rest of it. If you're Ericsson, Casemiro, you can't do 3 in a week. But I've just been a little, and I go back to that Spurs thing. I remember someone asked me before that game, and I think the phrase I used was, "I'd be staggered if he doesn't play his first team." And of course, I look at the team, and it shows what I know, because he's got like a mix and match sort of thing. I'm just like thinking, I don't know, and also there is a sort of school of thought, and again, they're high-end athletes, so maybe this shouldn't affect them, but you're almost giving an excuse by sort of saying all the time, Guardiola, and I always quote Guardiola because he's obviously the most successful recently, he would never go down the fatigue route because he feels like it gives a bit of an excuse, you know what I mean, to his players, basically, who will listen and say, yeah, okay, then maybe not wanting to, obviously, but subconsciously, maybe they just slack it off a little bit. So I've been a little bit surprised by that. I mean, this 3-4-3, I get that he'll live or die by it. And actually, if you look at it, it's more like a sort of 3-4-2-1, right? Because he has these sort of 2 tens, doesn't he? Like yesterday it was Ahmad and Bruno. I don't know. I think we get back to the same thing. The club itself is not right. Ineos is supposed to be writing it, sorting it out. We've had this absolute farce with Ashworth, which isn't a very good sign that they can get this structurally correct. And then, as you basically sort of brought up, Flex, or introduced, the players themselves, as a squad, are kind of, yeah. I mean, they are average, but are they really as bad as 13th? I'm looking at that as someone who's covered them, right, since the season before Ferguson retired. So what's that, 11, 12 years ago? I just can't believe, even Moyes, it wasn't quite as bad as this, in the end, in terms of the finishing position. I think it was 8th, maybe. I'm just really staggered at this. Now maybe they'll end up about 7th or 8th, but it's just, I'm just really, really surprised. I suppose the fall off from Ten Hag as well. I mean, I never thought I'd say that. I mean, he finished 8th, right, last season.
Yeah, finished 8th, yeah.
And now they're sort of 5 places lower down under a guy who's supposed to be the next bright new thing and done great at Sporting. But as you said, Angelina, it's not being disrespectful. I know you said you weren't being disrespectful, but that is not the same level of league as ours. It just isn't. Whereas you'd have the quality of players, stroke managers, coaches in the Portuguese league. So it's a difficult proving. Or it's not really a proving ground. You come over here, and every manager who's walked through that place. Van Gaal had been at Barcelona and Bayern Munich. I think he was staggered with regard to the size of the commercial operation, right? That's Van Gaal, who's been at Barcelona, for example. So any manager who walked through there, it's sort of hit for 6. And as you quite kindly said, I think, Anil, you're right, he has been dropped in, sort of without a pre-season. And they said to him, I think, like it's now or never. So they almost sort of forced his hand. But once again, you get back to, I was sitting there in the press conference yesterday looking at him thinking, this guy has to, I know it's his job, and I get that, but he has to answer for absolutely everything, including with a leaking press room roof. He has to sort of like laugh that off or peer, because he's the focal point. And I just sometimes feel that, you should hear a little bit more from, in the example we're in now, Berard and Ratcliffe through the season. I would say those 2 figures should speak once publicly, if not twice each a season, just to take a little bit of the heat.
Yeah.
The whole thing about it always being the manager. So, I mean, I also looked at these runner fixtures you mentioned there, Flex, and I can see, if you get knocked out by, it's Arsenal, isn't it, in the Cup?
Yeah.
Well, that could be your season over, apart from a relegation fight.
Yeah.
You put us bottom earlier, Jamie, so come on.
Europa League at best. I mean,
True.
we're in that, but I mean, if right now, if we face Spurs over 2 legs, would you fancy us? I don't know. What are we? Do you know what I mean? You don't know.
Yeah.
I just feel like we're in a. This is the bit where I suppose, although I've been really emotional the last couple of days, I've been throwing my toys out. I'm back being angry. I have, but he in the glass half full side, just to give a bit of balance. To be fair, as soon as Amorim got in here, like we beat Everton 4-0, he said, "Listen, we're gonna get found out." He said, "This is after we just beat Everton 4-0. We're gonna get found out, and the storm is coming." And that's because even in the games that we won, you could see the deficiencies in the team. You can see the people who are not up to doing what he's doing. And when you're saying about should there really be 13th, well, you now add in his style of play and what he wants to do. We don't have a wing back at all that can do the demands, cope with the demands of what he wants to do. Ahmad has been turned into that, to be fair. and he might be able to do it. But actually, Dalot, Shaw, Mazraoui, Malacia, nowhere near it, mate. Nowhere near what he wants from his wing back. So that's like, I've got to just get through. Then we go into the striker position. Nowhere near the level. You know, between Rasmus and Xerxes, they're just not. It's not even Rasmus's fault. Should never have been bought for 74 million and be Man United's main striker. And Xerxes, who apparently isn't even a proper striker, should not have been bought to be a striker. So that's number two. So how are you going to fix that? Then you got the 10 situation. Well, Marcus Rashford is done at now Man United. He's now finished. Let's just take him out of it. Garnacho, he has only had a short career, and he's a high and wide orthodox winger who does not suit the style of playing as an inside 10 in pockets of space, back to goal, half
100%.
does not fit that profile whatsoever. Then you've got Mason Mount, who's now injured for about 10 weeks. Probably been injured about 10
Probably is
months.
10 months, Flex.
Probably
You're
is
probably
10
right.
months.
Yeah.
Hasn't worked. What you spoke. Feel sorry for the lad. It's not nice, but that's our number 7. That is out. Chelsea saw that coming and charged us 60 million on a homegrown talent and are laughing all the way to PSR heaven, right? And now we're stuck with it.
I thought it was supposed to be a positive bit with a bit of
Well,
power.
Yeah, I thought this was the- I thought this
I'm
was
going to
gonna
get to the
make me feel a
positive.
little
I
bit
promise.
better.
To get to the positive, I've got to outline just what is there for Ruben Amorim and why we're 13th.
Right, okay, yeah.
Right? You've got an aging Casemiro. Let's be honest, he's frozen him out now. He used him here and there, but he hasn't played for a little while. Before the Spurs game, Eriksen hadn't played since Ipswich. You know what I mean? So there's no future in them guys. You've got a young Kobbie Mainoo where even now our own fan base is now starting to question and go, oh, what's going on? Oh, he looks like this, or we've gassed him up too much when he's playing in a shocking team. Ugarte, fair enough, he can run around a bit, gets to manage the situation. Leacher, the butcher, who we've all gone, oh, he's this, he's that. He's a butcher without an axe, mate. Awful. Like, he's not it. He's not it. He needs his hand holding. He's not that dominant physical left-sided centre-half that we're going to need. So Maguire on his way out. Lindelof on his way out. Evans on his way out. So when the positive, now I'm here, is that is actually what Ruben Amorim has to contend with. He wants his system to suit his players, and look at the players he has. Look at the squad he has. Miles off.
I think it's one of them situations where, as Jamie I think said right at the top of the show, the goalkeeper looks a little bit worrying. They can't defend. The midfield looks open, and they can't score goals. But other than that, I think Man United are on the right track here.
Yeah.
But this is going into looking forward and looking ahead quickly. I mean, the January transfer window, and you brought up Mason Mount there, Flex. You know, the homegrown talent. Chelsea made the most of it. I think he only had a year left of his contract.
Yep.
Now you flip that, and now you look at the situation with Marcus Rashford. Are Man United going to get that amount of money for Marcus Rashford? A homegrown talent, a bigger contract. Is he going to go for that much money? No, and especially in January. And the most ironic thing about this Rashford thing, I don't want to talk too much because I know you guys have already done a lot of content around Marcus Rashford, but this was an individual who said in this infamous interview with Henry Winter that when the time does come that he will leave Manchester United, it will be very respectful, it will be very above board because he's seen what's happened with the previous players. And now this is one of the worst, and I'll tell you why, not just because of the way that he's been ostracised, and that's been self-inflicted, by the way, but the fact now that he has given all the cards to opponents who want to sign him to go, look, this is a player who's surplus to requirements. Why on earth will we pay the 50, 60 million that you want for him? We couldn't give a monkeys if he's your homegrown talent or he's your star boy. This is an individual who doesn't want to be there. You don't want him. We'll give you 30. If you don't want it, we'll go.
Yeah.
30 million for Marcus Rashford. If you told me that a couple of years ago when he was being linked with PSG, people were telling me they wouldn't take 100 million for Marcus Rashford.
Exactly.
And I think if that doesn't show you the situation and the uphill task, I think Angelina called it Mount Everest for Amorim. I think it might even be bigger than a climb of Mount Everest. It's a very worrying time.
Is Kilimanjaro bigger than that?
I think if you add them both together, that's probably the size of the wall.
Double, there you go.
Yeah. But I think it's very upsetting to see because you look at Amorim, clearly very capable, but when you've got a shoestring budget and you're hanging your hat on some FFP to be eased up by a Marcus Rashford sale, then I think that says it all where we're at the moment, doesn't it?
Guys, before we wrap up, we'll start with Angelina. Let's get the predictions locked in for the week ahead. You know, it's Christmas and all. Get in the festive spirit. Let's get some smiles on faces. Wolves away, Molineux under the lights. First game at home for the new manager. Man United shipped, 3 the other day, 4, 7. So shipping a lot of goals. How do you see it going, Angelina?
Do I have to?
Yeah, you do.
It's a tough one because you know me with these predictions. I hate predicting a loss, which makes me quite delusional. But I can't say it out loud. I think if you could take a point from that game, I think that would be good going, which is ridiculous that I'm even saying that. Maybe I'm just in like a negative headspace, like Flex after watching the last 2 games. But I'm gonna go 1-1. But Flex always calls me out and says you don't even believe that, really.
You don't believe that. That means
We all
you think
know
we're
what
going
I'm
to lose. You
thinking,
just
but
don't
I'm
want to
gonna
say.
predict 1-1.
Okay. Anil?
Well, look, it's got all the signs of a defeat for Manchester United. But Flex, I've been a good boy this year, and I've asked Santa for 3 points against Wolves. So I'm going to go with a barnstormer of a game. I'm going to go, don't ask me why, but I'm going to go 3-2 to Man United.
Jamie?
Okay, so as a neutral, someone who doesn't support United,
Heavy Man United defeat.
well, I'm going to say 3-1 to Wolves. I apologise to you three and all the United fans.
Don't apologise, mate.
But I just after that horror show, I think you might get a goal, but I just think you're going to get absolute. I think it's going to be not great for United. So yeah, 3-1 to Wolves.
Yep, I'm going to go 2-0 Wolves. I know these players. I know when the going gets tough, they don't get going, mate. Like they're not going to respond well to this adversity.
That's the problem. Yeah,
like Wolves will put it on us. The crowd will be up. Someone will make a mistake, and then the dominoes will fall. I really hope I'm wrong, but I've seen it too many times with these set of players. Leopards don't change their spots. Roy Keane's always talking about that, and we just don't have the characters in there. Amorim, with the greatest will in the world, can set us up in a way that can help, but we're in big trouble. We're in this Newcastle Liverpool. We're in big trouble. I see 3 L's coming. I see 3 L's. Honestly, I really do. Right, there you go, guys. That's the latest show of Inside Devils just before Christmas. I'll have that. Hopefully we're proved wrong on Boxing Day. And some of you guys in the comments are saying, "Why was you so negative? Believe in the team, this, that, and the other." And I really hope I'm wrong. Just like City, I didn't think we'd win that, and I was stunned. So hopefully it's one of those. Big shout out to Anil. Big shout out to Angelina, and thank you, Jamie, very much for coming on once again.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
everyone.
and we will see you guys in the wake of the Wolves fixture. So hopefully bearing 3 points. We are out of here, guys. Take care. See you on another episode of Inside Devils very, very soon.